Okay, back with another demo. Decided to make this one at the pool. Why not, right? Why not? This is a demo on something called prepared paper, and here's a few examples. I've made these already. I already started the drawing on that one, but here's a couple without any drawing on it. And as you can see, it's just ordinary paper that has been prepared with some kind of medium that gives it texture and tone. Now, you can just buy toned paper. This is my favorite toned paper. It's Strathmore, and it's called Toned Tan. It's got a really nice color to it, nice tone. You can use black charcoal, white charcoal, or you could use red charcoal, brown charcoal. But it's the, as you can see on the drawing there, it's the addition of white charcoal that's really nice on toned paper. Now, I would love it if you guys have paper this large to use your self-portraits on, but I figure you probably don't. So I designed this demo to work with just regular printer paper because I know that that's the size that a lot of you are going to be working with. And again, since you might not be able to run out to your nearest art store, this will give you some sort of paper that is tan or toned down, and that you can work with. I'm going to teach you how to make ones that have a lot of texture, like this one, or minimal amount of texture, like this. You can see there's a little bit of creases here, and there's different things we can do to take those away. You can have less creases. There's still going to be a little bit if you're using regular printer paper, because the printer paper is thin. If you have thicker paper, like watercolor paper or some other kind of paper, then I highly recommend using that instead, because the thicker the paper, the less creases that you'll have at the end. But it shouldn't really cause us too much problems. Okay, so what will you need? You'll need some paper. I would get some paper towels that you could use to put on a clean surface. If you're going to use coffee, the easiest way is just to use some leftover coffee from, like, if your parents drink coffee, I guess. And if you have some access to coffee and you don't have a coffee drinker in the house, just let the coffee soak for a while and make sure it's moist. And basically, that's all you need. Once you have that moist coffee that's soaked in the water, you can just scoop out some onto the surface of the paper. So you're going to want to cover most or all of the paper. I like to cover all of it. If you don't cover all of it, you'll have like white spots, and that will increase the amount of texture if you're looking for a lot of contrast in the texture. But this is background texture, so usually a high amount of contrast isn't good for background texture because it's kind of distracting. It does depend on the look you're going for. Okay, by now I've covered most of the paper. I'm using a brush, by the way. I found kind of like this old ratty brush that I could use to kind of get in between, the grains of coffee. It's easier than trying to do it all with a spoon. It's very hard to cover the whole paper with just a spoon. So yeah, if you do have an older brush, now you can see I'm doing another sheet next to this sheet, and I'm going to do a lighter one and a darker one. The darker one, as you can see, I'm leaving those coffee grounds on for longer, and they're going to soak into the paper. The lighter one, as you can see, I'm really just using pretty much like the water with a little bit of the coffee grains to give a little bit of texture. And now I'm dipping back into that other one just to fill in those little white gaps because I don't want any white gaps on that page. Okay, so part 2 is using tea. I've got green tea and black tea. The black tea will give you a redder look, kind of brownish reddish, and the green tea is sort of greenish yellowish, probably more yellow than green, but kind of towards green. So get some hot water, and you can soak your tea bags there. Loose leaf tea is even better because it'll give you more texture, but I'm just using tea bags sort of to kind of show an easy way to do it. And here you can see the black tea has more of a reddish kind of color, and of course the green tea is a greenish yellowish. And so now you can see it's just like painting basically, or using an ink wash. The black tea has a really beautiful earthy color, and the paper picks it up right away. This was actually my favorite one. This one using the black tea. This was the one that I liked the best at the end when they were done. And in this one, I also decided to leave a few white spaces because I knew that the black tea doesn't stain quite as darkly as coffee, so I actually wanted a higher contrast in the background space. And so leaving a couple little spaces of white does make that higher contrast. Here's the green tea. Now, unfortunately, I made a bad choice with the green tea. I didn't realize that this is gen matcha, which has rice in it, and I broke open the tea bag and spread around the tea. I wanted the tea leaves to soak in and give it more texture, but unfortunately the toasted rice ends up totally ruining this one, because rice actually is like kind of a glue, so it like glues itself to the paper. So this one's a failure, but the black tea turned out good. And later I decided to break open the black tea bag and also spread the leaves around because I realized it wasn't going to give me as much texture as I wanted otherwise. And here they are pretty much done. I'm just spreading the tea leaves out a little bit more, and then I leave them for about an hour, hour and a half. Okay, and now I'm just wiping off the tea leaves. This was a little too soon. I think I should have left it for a full 2 hours, because as I'm wiping off the tea leaves, some of the leaves are pulling the moisture that's still in and creating, it's kind of smoothing out the texture, and I actually wanted more texture. So that's something to be aware of. You know, you may want to wait a little longer. And then the most important part is clean up. Definitely clean up. So take this page off of the paper towel, wipe down the table surface. I don't want any angry parents sending me angry emails. So definitely make sure you clean up really good from this. And now you're going to want to put down a fresh sheet of paper towel and one on top to protect the surface. And what we're going to do is, well, basically these paper towels are going to suck out any moisture that's still in the paper as we lay something flat and heavy on this to sort of flatten it out and take out any wrinkles. I chose books because that's what I had lying around at my friend's house where I made this. Anything that you have that is flat. These books, now when I look back on it, I wish I hadn't, you know, split them in two like this. I should have found one thing that was large enough to flatten it all and then stacked the multiple books, because I think there ended up being a little crease in the middle of this one because I had two separate books that were flattening it down. But anyway, I mean, this is basically the idea. Find something flat and put a lot of weight on top of it. And so now this has been probably another, I don't know, maybe another 2 hours or so. And I am taking off the books. I'm gonna check it out, see how it is. This is one of the ones with coffee, and there are still a few grounds on it that I'm gonna go ahead and try to wipe off gently with a paper towel. Once again, I should have waited longer. I was in a rush to get this video done and put it out there for you guys. And the drawback is that it still was a little bit damp. So as I'm wiping it off, there is, again, the coffee grounds are dragging along the surface, and because it's still moist, there's sort of like it's altering the texture. And you know, you may like that. You might like the way that looks. But I personally don't, because if you don't do it, if you do let the coffee grounds dry completely, they have this really cool look, like it looks like old parchment. Okay, and again, was the one with the black tea, and again, this was my favorite one. I might have let this one dry. I think this one was this was drier. So because it was drier, when I'm like wiping off the tea, it's like it's not adding to the texture of what's already there. Okay, and now the the tea leaves are off, so I'm placing it on the clean paper towel, and I'm gonna place another fresh paper towel on the top. Again, this is to get out any last excess moisture that might still be in there and protect it as I put the weight on it. And this time I chose to put a large flat surface, this printmaking block that I happen to have. You might not have something like that, but see if you have a big book, something that's large and flat and that actually covers the entire surface before you stack the books that are smaller, or whatever it is that's smaller that could actually make an indentation onto the paper. Okay, so that's it. We made prepared paper. Again, the reason that I like these is this sort of texture that you get that kind of looks like old parchment. This one even has a hole in the middle. How appropriate. This one is the one that had less texture, except I don't like that, which happened. Remember, that happened because I set on the books on the two opposite sides of that. This was my favorite one. I told you in the beginning, I already started drawing on this, and I will continue that in another video. And then this was another one that I did with tea, kind of like the texture there. And that's pretty much it. Enjoy making your prepared paper. See what kind of cool textures you can come up with, what kind of interesting, weird things you can use. Know that some things with organic components may be subject to deterioration over time. Take that into consideration. Definitely use the thickest paper you have available to you, and have fun.